I'm so glad you found your way here. Your subconscious is filing memories as you rest, deciding what to keep, what to blend, and what to tuck away in secret places. You'll discover where your mind hides forgotten moments and understand why some memories feel closer than yesterday. Welcome to Psychology for Sleep. Wherever you are right now, perhaps wondering about lost childhood moments or feeling memories drift just beyond reach, allow yourself this exploration. We'll journey through 100 psychology facts about memory's hidden vaults. From the library where your earliest years are stored in wordless whispers, to the filing system that works while you sleep, to bridges between what you remember and what remembers you. This thoughtful journey through consciousness builds bridges between searching minds. A soft subscribe, like, or sharing your thoughts creates a pathway for more memory seekers to discover and brings us closer to protect this sanctuary. One sleepy soul at a time. Your journey inspires ours. Let yourself settle completely here. Feel your jaw unclench. Your breath deepen naturally. You can let these thoughts drift past without holding them. Sense that soothing heaviness enveloping you, like your consciousness slowly dimming its brightness. Thoughts dissolving into peaceful fog of approaching sleep. Close your eyes and breathe deeply. You're floating where memories rest safely in gentle darkness. Let your mind merge with infinite peace. And now we begin. Your brain doesn't rest when you sleep. It reorganizes everything you learned today, while your body lies still. Approximately 86 billion neurons fire in precise patterns, replaying experiences from your waking hours. This process, called memory consolidation, allows fleeting impressions to become lasting knowledge. Researchers using advanced brain imaging discovered that during deep sleep, your hippocampus repeatedly broadcasts the day's events to your cortex. Like a teacher reviewing lessons, each replay strengthens neural pathways, making memories more permanent. Without this nightly review, most experiences would fade like writing in sand. Sleep isn't an interruption of learning. It's where learning becomes permanent. Memory formation happens in two distinct phases that depend entirely on sleep. During your waking hours, new experiences create temporary traces in your hippocampus, a brain region that acts like a temporary storage facility. These fragile memories can last hours or days, but they're vulnerable, easily disrupted by stress, distraction, or new information. Then, during sleep, particularly during the deep, slow wave stages that occur mostly in the first half of the night, these temporary traces get transferred to your cortex for long-term storage. Recent studies showed this transfer happens through coordinated bursts of brain activity called sharp wave ripples, which replay experiences at speeds up to 20 times faster than real life. It's like your brain is uploading files from temporary storage to a permanent hard drive. Miss the sleep, and the upload never completes. Here's something remarkable. Your brain doesn't try to remember everything. During sleep, it actively chooses what to forget. Neuroscientists have discovered that sleep triggers a process called synaptic homeostasis, where the connections between neurons that represent unimportant memories literally shrink and weaken. Your brain is constantly making decisions about what matters and what doesn't, pruning away the trivial to make room for the meaningful. If you remembered every moment of every day, every commercial, every conversation, every passing thought, your mind would be overwhelmed with noise. Sleep acts as an editor, keeping the signal and discarding the static. The memories that survive this nightly selection process are the ones your brain has deemed worth keeping. Sleep doesn't just preserve memories, it curates them. Your dreams aren't random chaos. They're your brain's way of integrating new memories with old ones. During REM sleep, which happens more frequently in the second half of the night, your brain creates strange narratives by mixing recent experiences with older memories, emotions, and abstract concepts. Recent research using AI to decode dream content found that dreams often feature elements from the previous day, combined with emotionally similar experiences from years earlier. This appears to be intentional, serving an important purpose. By connecting new information to existing knowledge networks, your brain creates richer, more accessible memories. That bizarre dream where your childhood home merged with your current workplace, that might be your brain linking feelings of safety and comfort across different life periods. Dreams are memory integration sessions, conducted in the theater of your sleeping mind. There are brief, invisible waves rippling through your sleeping brain called sleep spindles. Bursts of brain activity lasting just a second or two that happen during light sleep. These spindles, which occur 10 to 15 times per minute during certain sleep stages, are now understood to be crucial for moving memories from temporary to permanent storage. Recent studies found that people who naturally produce more sleep spindles show better memory retention and learning ability. Even more fascinating, the number of spindles you generate can be influenced by what you did before sleep. Learning something new, especially something challenging, triggers more spindles that night. Your brain literally generates more of these memory-moving waves when it has important information to process. Sleep spindles are like tiny conveyor belts, carrying memories from one part of your brain to another, ensuring nothing valuable gets lost. Not all memories are treated equally during sleep. Your brain prioritizes emotionally charged experiences over neutral ones. Recent studies showed that memories associated with strong emotions, whether positive or negative, receive preferential processing during REM sleep. The amygdala, your brain's emotional center, stays highly active during REM periods, tagging certain memories as important based on their emotional content. This explains why you can forget what you had for lunch last Tuesday but vividly remember an embarrassing moment from 10 years ago. The emotional weight of an experience determines how much sleep processing attention it receives. Interestingly, this emotional processing during sleep also serves another purpose. It gradually reduces the emotional intensity of negative memories while preserving the factual details. Sleep doesn't just store your experiences, it also heals them, softening the sting of difficult memories while keeping the lessons they taught. While you sleep, your brain literally replays your experiences. Scientists can now detect these replays using sophisticated recording equipment. Recent research monitoring the brains of sleeping mice found that the same neural firing patterns that occurred when the mice explored a maze during the day repeated during sleep, but at 7 to 20 times the normal speed. It's as if your brain is watching a high-speed replay of your day, reviewing what happened over and over. In humans, studies using brain imaging have detected similar replay patterns. When people learned a new route through a virtual environment and then slept, their brains reactivated the same spatial patterns during deep sleep. These replays aren't perfect recordings. They're more like sketches, emphasizing the important details and discarding the rest. Your sleeping brain is practicing, rehearsing, and refining the experiences you had while awake. Sleep doesn't just preserve memories. It finds hidden connections between them. During sleep, particularly during REM stages, your brain explores unusual associations between different pieces of information, sometimes discovering relationships you never consciously noticed. Recent experiments asked people to solve puzzles before and after sleep. Those who slept showed dramatically improved problem-solving ability compared to those who stayed awake. But here's what's fascinating. The improvements weren't just from being rested. Brain recordings showed that during sleep, neurons representing different elements of the puzzle began firing together in new combinations. Sleep allowed the brain to literally rewire itself, creating new pathways between previously separate memories. This is why solutions to difficult problems sometimes appear effortlessly after a good night's rest. Your sleeping mind is an unconscious genius, quietly solving problems you couldn't crack while awake. Your brain knows when you're sleeping somewhere new, and it changes how it sleeps. Scientists call this the first night effect. On your first night in an unfamiliar place, one hemisphere of your brain maintains slightly higher vigilance than the other, processing memories less efficiently than normal. Research confirms this is an evolutionary adaptation, a way for your brain to stay partially alert to potential threats in unfamiliar environments. Interestingly, this effect diminishes after the first night, but never completely disappears in some people. This is why frequent travelers often report feeling less rested in hotels than at home. Even when they sleep the same number of hours, your brain is prioritizing safety over memory consolidation, keeping one eye open, so to speak, until it trusts the new environment. It's a reminder that sleep is ancient, evolved over millions of years when sleeping safely was never guaranteed. Deep in your brain lies a structure called the hippocampus, and it serves as a kind of index for your memories. Recent research revealed that the hippocampus doesn't actually store long-term memories. Instead, it maintains a sort of address book, keeping track of where different elements of a memory are stored throughout your cortex. When you recall a memory, your hippocampus coordinates the retrieval, pulling together sights from visual areas, sounds from auditory regions, and emotions from limbic structures, weaving them into a coherent experience. During sleep, the hippocampus works overtime, strengthening these indexes, making sure future retrieval will be smooth and accurate. Damage to the hippocampus doesn't erase old memories, but it makes forming new ones nearly impossible and makes existing ones harder to access. Sleep allows this indexing system to organize itself, creating clear pathways to your stored experiences. Without sleep, your memories become like books in a library with no catalog. Still there, but increasingly difficult to find. The deepest stage of sleep, called slow-wave sleep, produces large, slow electrical waves that roll across your brain like ocean swells. These waves, occurring about once per second, are now understood to be essential for memory consolidation. Recent studies using targeted electrical stimulation found that artificially enhancing these slow waves significantly improved people's ability to remember factual information. During slow-wave sleep, your brain coordinates the transfer of declarative memories, facts, events, and knowledge from temporary hippocampal storage to permanent cortical networks. The slow waves seem to orchestrate this transfer, ensuring that information moves in an organized, systematic way. People who spend more time in slow-wave sleep show better retention of what they learned during the day. This deep sleep is particularly abundant in children and adolescents, which makes sense. They're learning at an incredible rate and need robust memory consolidation. As we age, slow-wave sleep naturally decreases, which may partly explain age-related memory changes. Learning something new can actually interfere with consolidating previous memories if you don't sleep between them. Neuroscientists call this retroactive interference, and it's a significant challenge for the brain. When you try to learn similar information without allowing sleep to consolidate the first set, the new information can overwrite or confuse the older memories. Recent studies showed that students who studied related topics back-to-back without sleeping in between showed significantly more confusion and errors than those who had a full night's sleep between study sessions. Sleep acts as a protective barrier, stabilizing new memories so they're resistant to interference from later learning. This is why cramming for exams, trying to learn everything in one marathon session, is far less effective than spacing learning over multiple days with sleep in between. Each night of sleep locks in what you learned, making it more durable and less susceptible to being disrupted by new information. Your brain needs time, and specifically sleep time, to properly catalog each day's learning. Your brain performs a form of triage during sleep, deciding which memories deserve immediate attention and which can wait. Recent research found that memories you explicitly tried to learn receive priority processing during sleep compared to information you encountered passively. If you studied vocabulary words with the intention of remembering them, your brain will replay and consolidate those memories more aggressively during sleep than memories of, say, billboards you saw while driving. But intention isn't the only factor. Emotional relevance, personal significance, and survival value also influence the triage process. Your brain has evolved to prioritize information that might be important for your well-being or goals. This selective processing is incredibly efficient, but it also means that not everything you experience during the day will make it into long-term storage. Sleep doesn't have unlimited capacity to consolidate everything, so it chooses wisely, focusing on what matters most based on multiple signals from your waking experience. If you practice a physical skill and then sleep, your brain continues practicing it for you. Studies of people learning motor skills, like playing piano or juggling, show that performance improves after sleep even without additional physical practice. During sleep, particularly during REM and Stage 2 sleep, the motor cortex reactivates the same patterns it used during actual practice, essentially rehearsing the movements mentally. Recent studies using brain imaging found these internal practice sessions can be remarkably detailed, replaying the precise sequence of muscle activations needed for the skill. This offline practice strengthens the neural pathways involved in the skill, making the movements more automatic and fluid. Interestingly, the improvement is specific to what you practiced. Sleeping after piano practice won't help your tennis serve. Sleep-dependent skill learning is highly targeted, focusing on whatever your brain identified as important during your waking practice. This is why professional athletes prioritize sleep as much as physical training. The learning doesn't stop when practice ends. It continues, invisibly, while they dream. Sometimes the answer to a problem appears suddenly when you wake up. as if it arrived during sleep. This isn't imagination. It's a documented phenomenon called sleep-dependent insight. During sleep, your brain explores solution spaces it doesn't consider during waking thought, trying combinations and connections that your conscious mind finds too unlikely or irrelevant. Recent experiments gave people a complex number problem that had a hidden shortcut. Only 20% discovered the shortcut while awake. But after a night of sleep, nearly 60% suddenly saw the solution. Brain recordings during their sleep showed unusual patterns of connectivity between distant brain regions, suggesting their sleeping brains were exploring non-obvious relationships between different aspects of the problem. Sleep allows your mind to think in ways that waking consciousness prohibits, breaking free from habitual thought patterns and rigid assumptions. The creative insights that emerge aren't random. They're the result of systematic, if unconscious, problem-solving that happens while you sleep. Your brain grows stronger by removing connections, not just by adding them. During sleep, a process called synaptic pruning eliminates weaker or unused neural connections, making the remaining networks more efficient. Think of it as clearing dead branches from a tree so the healthy branches can flourish. Recent research found that glial cells in the brain become highly active during deep sleep, physically removing synaptic connections that haven't been reinforced during waking hours. This might sound like losing memories, but it's actually essential for learning. A brain that kept every connection would become overwhelmed, unable to distinguish important patterns from random noise. By pruning away the weak connections, sleep sharpens the important ones, making your most meaningful memories clearer and more accessible. Children undergo particularly intensive synaptic pruning during development, which is why childhood sleep is so crucial. Their brains are not just learning what to remember, but learning what to forget, sculpting their neural architecture into increasingly efficient forms. Memory consolidation during sleep isn't a passive recording. It's an active reactivation that can actually change the memory. When your brain replays an experience during sleep, it doesn't just copy it to long-term storage. It reconstructs it, sometimes adding context, removing details, or blending it with related memories. Neuroscientists have discovered that each time a memory is reactivated during sleep, it becomes slightly more abstract, less tied to specific sensory details, and more integrated with your general knowledge. This is why your memory of an event from 10 years ago feels different from the memory of yesterday. It's been processed through dozens or hundreds of sleep cycles, each one subtly reshaping it. This isn't a flaw in the system. It's purposeful. By abstracting memories during sleep, your brain creates knowledge that's more flexible and applicable to new situations. The raw experience gets transformed into wisdom, into understanding that transcends the original moment. Sleep doesn't just process what happened. It processes how you felt about it. During REM sleep, your brain reactivates emotional memories, but in a unique neurochemical environment with lower levels of stress hormones like norepinephrine. This allows you to revisit difficult experiences without the intense physiological stress response that occurred during the original event. Recent research showed that this REM-based emotional processing gradually reduces the emotional intensity of negative memories while preserving the factual content. It's like your brain is teaching itself that the memory, while important, no longer needs to trigger such a strong reaction. People who are deprived of REM sleep show heightened emotional reactivity and difficulty processing negative experiences. Sleep, particularly REM sleep, appears to be nature's therapy session, helping you metabolize difficult emotions and integrate them into your ongoing life story without being overwhelmed by them. Each night, your sleeping brain tends to emotional wounds you didn't even know needed healing. Your brain has specialized systems for remembering where things are, and these spatial memories are especially dependent on sleep. The hippocampus contains specialized cells called place cells that fire when you're in specific locations, creating a mental map of your environment. During sleep, these place cells replay the routes you traveled during the day, strengthening the spatial memories. Recent studies track the brain activity of taxi drivers learning London's complex street layout. After nights with adequate sleep, their place cell networks showed more organized, efficient representations of the routes they'd driven. After nights of poor sleep, the mental maps remained fragmented and confused. This sleep-dependent spatial processing isn't just for navigation. It also helps organize conceptual knowledge. Your brain uses spatial metaphors to understand abstract relationships, and sleep helps consolidate these mental landscapes. When you know your way around a complex topic, you're literally using spatial memory systems that require sleep to function properly. Here's something counterintuitive. Every time you remember something, that memory becomes temporarily unstable and needs to be reconsolidated. This means old memories, even ones from years ago, can be modified if you recall them and then sleep. Neuroscientists have discovered that the act of retrieval essentially reopens a memory file, making it editable. If you sleep after recalling an old memory, that memory will be reconsolidated, potentially incorporating new information or perspectives you've gained since the original experience. This is why memories aren't perfect recordings. They're living documents that evolve each time you access them. Some researchers are now exploring whether this reconsolidation window could be used therapeutically, allowing people to modify troubling memories by retrieving them in safe contexts and then sleeping. The implications are profound. Your memories are not fixed artifacts of the past, but dynamic constructions that your sleeping brain continues to revise throughout your life. Your immune system and your memory systems talk to each other during sleep, and this conversation affects how you remember things. Recent research found that immune molecules called cytokines, which are released during sleep, influence memory consolidation. When you're fighting an infection, certain cytokines increase and alter the normal sleep architecture, sometimes impairing memory formation. Conversely, the act of learning and forming memories triggers immune responses that help protect and stabilize the new neural connections. This bidirectional relationship explains why sick people often have trouble forming new memories, and why sleep deprivation impairs both immune function and learning. Your brain and body aren't separate systems. They're intimately connected. And sleep is when much of this integration happens. The glial cells that support neurons are also part of the immune system. And during sleep, they actively maintain the brain environment necessary for memory consolidation. Taking care of your sleep is taking care of both your mind and body simultaneously. Different types of memories consolidate during different stages of sleep in a specific sequence. Procedural memories. How to do things. Consolidate primarily during stage 2 and REM sleep. Declarative memories. Facts and events. Consolidate during slow-wave sleep. Emotional aspects of memories get processed during REM sleep. But here's what's fascinating. The order matters. Recent studies found that disrupting early night slow-wave sleep impairs factual learning more than disrupting late-night sleep, while disrupting REM-rich late-night sleep impairs emotional processing and creative integration. Your brain has evolved a specific schedule for memory consolidation, processing different types of information at optimal times throughout the night. This is why getting a full night of undisturbed sleep matters. Cutting your sleep short means you might miss crucial later stage processing, even if you get several hours of deep sleep early in the night. Each stage of sleep has a job to do, and they need to happen in the right order. Nightmares, while sometimes uncomfortable, serve a memory function. They appear to be the brain's way of processing intensely threatening or disturbing experiences in a safe context. Research on trauma survivors found that nightmares, despite being distressing, are often associated with better long-term psychological outcomes compared to trauma survivors who don't dream about their experiences. The current scientific understanding suggests that nightmares represent the emotional processing system working overtime on particularly difficult material. During nightmares, the brain rehearses responses to threats, processes fear, and gradually reduces the physiological intensity of troubling memories. This doesn't mean nightmares are pleasant or that you should seek them out, but it does suggest they have an adaptive purpose. For most people, occasional nightmares are a normal part of the brain's memory management system, handling the difficult emotional material that accumulates during waking life. The sleeping brain doesn't shy away from darkness. It walks directly through it, processing what consciousness might prefer to avoid. Most people can't remember anything from before age 3 or 4. And sleep patterns may explain why. Infantile amnesia, as it's called, occurs because the hippocampus and prefrontal cortex, brain regions essential for forming lasting declarative memories, are still developing during early childhood. But there's more to it. The sleep architecture of infants and toddlers is dramatically different from adults, with much more REM sleep and less slow-wave sleep. Recent research suggests that this unique sleep pattern, while crucial for brain development, may actually work against forming stable long-term memories of specific events. The infant brain is optimizing for rapid learning and neural plasticity rather than creating permanent episodic memories. As children's sleep patterns mature around age 3 to 4, their ability to form lasting memories improves. Interestingly, the emotions and implicit learning from those early years still influence adult behavior. They're encoded in different memory systems that don't depend on the hippocampus. Your earliest years shaped you profoundly. Even though you can't consciously remember them, you can't actually catch up on lost sleep completely, especially when it comes to memory consolidation. While sleeping extra after sleep deprivation helps somewhat, recent studies show that memories that should have been consolidated during the missed sleep nights are partially or permanently lost. Sleep debt accumulates, and its effects on memory are cumulative. People who chronically sleep 6 hours per night show measurably worse memory performance than those sleeping 8 hours. Even after a weekend of recovery sleep, the brain needs regular, consistent sleep to maintain healthy memory function. Each night of adequate sleep builds on the previous night, creating a stable foundation for learning and remembering. When that foundation is disrupted repeatedly, the cognitive consequences compound over time. This is why shift workers and people with chronic sleep disorders often report memory difficulties. They're trying to learn and remember with a system that hasn't had the consistent overnight processing it needs. Sleep isn't a luxury you can skimp on and make up later. It's a daily requirement for a functioning memory system. Let's pause here and notice your body as you breathe out slowly. Appreciate each tiny cell inside, trillions of organisms working in silence. Heart beating, lungs breathing, brain thinking, all without your command. Notice the gentle sensations on your skin, in your muscles, along your spine. You are a complete ecosystem, diverse, self-balancing, processing experiences even now as you rest. Now we continue. During sleep, your hippocampus and cortex engage in a sophisticated conversation. The hippocampus sends sharp wave ripples, brief bursts of intense neural activity that carry compressed versions of your day's experiences to the cortex. The cortex responds with slow oscillations that indicate readiness to receive the information. This back and forth dialogue, occurring hundreds of times per night, is how temporary memories become permanent knowledge. Scientists recording from both structures simultaneously found that successful memory transfer requires precise timing between these signals. When the cortex oscillation and hippocampal ripple align perfectly, the memory trace grows stronger in the cortex. When they're out of sync, consolidation fails. Sleep architecture naturally creates windows of perfect synchronization, but anything that disrupts sleep, noise, sleep disorders, stress, can throw off this delicate timing. Your brain regions are learning to speak the same language through sleep. Memory consolidation requires the physical construction of new proteins in your neurons. During sleep, genes that code for synaptic proteins become highly active, initiating protein synthesis that strengthens and stabilizes the connections between neurons. Recent studies found that blocking protein synthesis during sleep completely prevented memory consolidation, even though the sleep itself appeared normal. These proteins aren't just reinforcing existing connections. They're building entirely new synaptic structures that physically encode your memories. The process is energy-intensive and requires resources that are more readily available during sleep when your brain isn't busy with waking tasks. This is biological memory making at its most fundamental level. Molecules assembling into structures that preserve experiences. The thought you're having now will fade within seconds, but if your brain decides it's important, tonight while you sleep, proteins will be synthesized to make sure that thought can return whenever you need it. During REM sleep, levels of acetylcholine, a neurotransmitter involved in attention and memory encoding, remain high, but levels of norepinephrine and serotonin drop dramatically. This unique neurochemical environment allows for memory reactivation without the stress and emotional intensity of the original encoding. Recent research showed that this is crucial for processing emotional memories. The high acetylcholine keeps memory systems active, while the absence of stress neurotransmitters allows the brain to revisit difficult experiences without re-triggering the body's stress response. It's like your brain has created a chemical safe space where it can work with sensitive material. Medications that affect these neurotransmitter systems can interfere with this process, which is why some antidepressants and blood pressure medications are known to affect dream content and emotional memory consolidation. Sleep creates a unique biochemical state that exists nowhere else in your daily cycle. Deep within your hippocampus, a specific brain rhythm called theta oscillation becomes prominent during REM sleep and certain stages of waking exploration. This rhythm, cycling about 7 times per second, appears to organize the sequential replay of memories. When researchers artificially disrupted theta rhythms during sleep, memory consolidation was severely impaired. Even though other aspects of sleep remain normal, the theta rhythm seems to provide a temporal framework, a beat that coordinates the precise sequence of neural firing needed to represent complex memories. It's like a metronome keeping time while your neurons play the symphony of your experiences. Different memories appear to be encoded at different phases of the theta cycle, allowing multiple memories to be processed simultaneously without interfering with each other. This rhythm is one of the brain's fundamental organizing principles, and sleep is when it works most powerfully to structure your memories. Your brain doesn't consolidate memories randomly. It actively selects which ones deserve the metabolic cost of long-term storage. Recent research identified specific markers that tag memories for sleep consolidation. Novelty, emotional intensity, personal relevance, and connection to existing knowledge all increase the likelihood a memory will be processed during sleep. Memories without these markers tend to fade rapidly, never making it into long-term storage. This selectivity is adaptive. If your brain preserved every mundane detail of every day, you'd be drowning in irrelevant information. But it also means your memory is inherently biased towards certain types of experiences. Important routine information that lacks novelty or emotion may not be well preserved, while dramatic but less relevant events get priority processing. Your memory isn't an objective record. It's a curated collection of what your brain, in its ancient wisdom, decided mattered. The large, slow electrical waves that characterize deep sleep don't just ripple across your cortex passively. They actively orchestrate memory consolidation. Each slow wave represents millions of neurons firing in synchrony, creating pulses of up states where neurons are active and down states where they're silent. During the up states, memories can be reactivated and strengthened. During the down states, the brain is essentially offline, allowing metabolic cleanup and recovery. Recent studies found that the precise timing of memory reactivation during these up states predicts whether consolidation will succeed. Memories replayed during optimal phases of the slow oscillation show dramatically better retention than those replayed during less optimal phases. These slow waves are like the conductor of an orchestra, determining exactly when each section of your memory system can play its part. Without them, the consolidation process becomes chaotic and ineffective. Hermann Ebbinghaus discovered in the 1880s that newly learned information fades rapidly without reinforcement, following what's now called the forgetting curve. But modern research shows that sleep fundamentally alters this curve. Information learned and then followed by sleep shows a dramatically slower decay than information followed by an equivalent period of waking. Recent studies measured this precisely. People tested after 12 hours awake showed 40 to 60% loss of new information, while those tested after 12 hours, including a night of sleep, showed only 10 to 20% loss. Sleep doesn't just slow forgetting, it can even strengthen memories. A phenomenon called offline consolidation, where performance on a learned task actually improves after sleep without additional practice. The forgetting curve isn't fixed. Sleep reshapes it, bending time's natural tendency to erase experience, giving your memories resilience they wouldn't otherwise have. Sleep consolidation can sometimes create false connections between memories, leading to source confusion. Remembering information correctly, but misattributing where you learned it. During sleep, your brain connects related memories to create more efficient networks of knowledge. But sometimes these connections blur the boundaries between different learning episodes. Recent experiments found that people who slept after learning similar information from two different sources were more likely to confuse which source provided which detail. Even though their overall knowledge of the information improved, this isn't necessarily a flaw. Connecting information across different contexts makes knowledge more flexible and applicable. But it does mean that sleep-consolidated memories prioritize meaning and relationship over precise, episodic detail. Your sleeping brain cares more about understanding than about preserving perfect records of where each piece of information came from. Truth over traceability. Old memories and new memories are processed differently during sleep. Recent memories, still fresh in the hippocampus, undergo active consolidation during slow-wave sleep. But older, already consolidated memories can also be reactivated during sleep, particularly during REM periods, where they're integrated with new information and sometimes reconsolidated with modifications. Recent research found that cueing people with reminders of old memories before sleep led to those memories being reactivated during the night, making them more accessible and vivid the next day. This suggests that sleep doesn't just work on what happened today. It can also strengthen or modify memories from months or years ago if they're recently recalled. Your entire memory library is potentially available for updating during each night's sleep, not just the newest additions. Memory is an active, ongoing process, not a collection of fixed files. How does your brain know which synapses to strengthen during sleep? Through a process called synaptic tagging. When you learn something while awake, the synapses involved in that learning get tagged with specific molecular markers. During subsequent sleep, proteins synthesized in the neuron's cell body are preferentially delivered to these tagged synapses, strengthening them. This tagging system allows your brain to remember which connections were important hours earlier. Even though the actual strengthening happens during sleep, the tags are like bookmarks, marking the pages that should be studied carefully during the night's review. Without this tagging system, sleep-dependent consolidation would strengthen random connections rather than meaningful ones. It's a sophisticated molecular memory of what was important during waking hours, ensuring that the right memories get reinforced. Sleep doesn't just preserve specific episodes. It extracts the underlying patterns and meaning. When you encounter multiple related experiences, sleep helps identify what they have in common, creating generalized knowledge that transcends any single episode. Recent studies showed that people could identify hidden rules in complex patterns better after sleep, even when they couldn't consciously remember the specific examples they'd seen. This semantic extraction is particularly pronounced during REM sleep, where the brain's pattern recognition systems are highly active. Your sleeping mind is essentially a scientist, gathering data points from your experiences and deriving general principles. This is how you develop intuitions and expertise, not just by memorizing specific cases, but by sleeping on them and allowing your brain to discover the deeper structures. Sleep transforms memory into wisdom. The testing effect. The finding that retrieving information strengthens memory better than simply reviewing it becomes even more powerful when followed by sleep. Recent research had people either study information repeatedly or test themselves on it, then measured memory after sleep. The group that tested themselves before sleeping showed dramatically superior retention compared to those who only studied. Beyond what the testing effect alone could explain, it appears that the effort of retrieval tags memories as particularly important, triggering more intensive consolidation during subsequent sleep. This has practical implications. If you want to remember something, testing yourself on it before bed and then sleeping may be one of the most effective strategies possible. Sleep amplifies the benefits of active retrieval, creating a synergy between waking study techniques and unconscious consolidation processes. Once a memory is consolidated through sleep, it becomes more resistant to interference from new, similar learning. This is called consolidation-induced stability. Scientists demonstrated this by teaching people two similar lists of word pairs. When people learned the second list immediately after the first, it severely disrupted their memory of the first list. A classic interference effect. But when a night of sleep separated the two learning sessions, the interference largely disappeared. The sleep-consolidated first list was stable enough to coexist with the new learning. This explains why spaced learning with sleep between sessions is so effective. Each learning episode gets consolidated into a stable state before new information is introduced. Your brain can hold multiple similar memories simultaneously, but only if sleep has had time to properly differentiate and stabilize them. REM sleep presents a paradox. The brain is highly active, consuming nearly as much energy as during waking, yet the body is paralyzed. This paralysis, called atonia, is not an accident. It's essential for memory processing. During REM sleep, your brain reactivates memories and explores new combinations of information, sometimes creating vivid sensory experiences. If your body could move during these reactivations, you'd physically act out these internal simulations, which could be dangerous. The brainstem actively suppresses motor output during REM sleep, allowing your mind to practice and simulate without physical consequences. Recent research in people with REM behavior disorder, where this paralysis is absent, showed that their memory consolidation was actually impaired, possibly because the brain had to partially inhibit memory reactivation to prevent dangerous movements. The stillness of REM sleep isn't just protection. It's permission for your mind to fully engage with memory processing without worrying about what your body might do. Psychologists have long noted that emotional intensity often decreases after sleeping on it, and neuroscience now explains why. During REM sleep, emotional memories are reactivated in a unique neurochemical environment, high in acetylcholine but low in stress hormones. This allows you to experience the memory without the full physiological stress response, gradually weakening the association between the memory content and the emotional reaction. Recent studies found that people shown disturbing images and then tested after sleep showed reduced emotional reactivity to those same images, while their factual memory of what they saw remained intact. The REM sleep had processed the emotional component without erasing the information. This overnight emotional regulation happens automatically, without conscious effort or therapy. Every time you sleep after an emotionally challenging experience, sleep is your mind's built-in healing mechanism, quietly reducing emotional pain while preserving the lessons learned. You're still here with me. Thoughts still flickering like candlelight. Just notice. Don't judge. Just notice where your mind is. we're exploring consciousness itself, the very thing doing the exploring now. Strange, beautiful, and perfectly calm. Let's drift onward together. Sleep evolved hundreds of millions of years ago, long before humans. Even simple organisms like fruit flies show sleep-like states necessary for memory formation. This suggests that the link between sleep and memory is not a quirk of human biology, but a fundamental requirement of any learning system. Evolution has had hundreds of millions of years to find alternatives to sleep if they existed. Yet sleep persists across virtually every animal species studied. The reason appears to be that learning creates a metabolic burden. Strengthening synapses requires energy and produces cellular waste. And this burden is best managed during a dedicated offline period. Wake and sleep represent a universal solution to the challenge of learning and remembering in a biological system with limited resources. Your need for sleep tonight is ancient, connected to fruit flies and fish and every creature that learns. Your brain uses about 20% of your body's total energy, despite being only 2% of your body weight. Memory consolidation during sleep is extraordinarily energy-intensive, requiring the synthesis of proteins and the modification of synaptic structures throughout the brain. Trying to do this during waking hours, while simultaneously processing sensory input and directing behavior, would be metabolically unsustainable. Sleep provides a period of reduced energy demand elsewhere in the body, allowing those resources to be redirected to memory consolidation. Studies measuring brain glucose metabolism found that memory-related brain regions actually increase their energy consumption during sleep, even as overall brain activity decreases. Sleep isn't rest for your memory systems. It's their most active working period, and they need the energy savings from your body's stillness to do their job. Throughout the day, learning and experience strengthen synaptic connections in your brain. But if this strengthening continued indefinitely, synapses would become saturated, leaving no room for new learning. The synaptic homeostasis hypothesis proposes that sleep globally downscales synaptic strength, returning the system to a baseline that allows for continued learning. This downscaling isn't random. Stronger connections resist it more than weaker ones. So important memories are preserved, while trivial ones fade. This process is crucial for ongoing learning capacity. Without sleep to reset your synaptic baseline, your brain would lose the ability to distinguish signal from noise, important from trivial. Sleep maintains the dynamic range of your memory system, ensuring you can keep learning throughout life. Sleep doesn't just preserve specific memories. It enhances cognitive flexibility, the ability to see problems from new angles and adapt strategies when circumstances change. Recent research found that sleep-deprived individuals show rigid thinking, perseverating on ineffective strategies even when feedback indicates they should change approach. Well-rested people, by contrast, readily adjust their thinking when needed. This flexibility appears to arise from sleep's role in reorganizing and integrating memories, creating new associations and weakening old ones. During sleep, your brain doesn't just record what happened, it recombines information in novel ways, preparing you to handle new situations creatively. The ability to think flexibly, to adapt and innovate, depends on regular sleep that allows your memory networks to remain dynamic rather than becoming rigidly fixed. Your brain is constantly trying to predict what will happen next, and memory is crucial to prediction. During sleep, memories are organized in ways that improve predictive accuracy. Recent models suggest that sleep-dependent consolidation creates hierarchical memory structures that capture statistical regularities in your experiences. What usually follows what? Which events tend to co-occur? What patterns reliably predict particular outcomes? When you wake, your brain uses these sleep-refined statistical models to anticipate the world. This is how you can complete familiar sentences before hearing them finish. Anticipate the behavior of people you know well, and navigate complex environments efficiently. Sleep transforms your memories into a prediction engine, constantly forecasting based on past experience. Without sleep to organize these predictive models, you'd be constantly surprised, unable to anticipate the regular structures of your world. Humans are profoundly social, and much of what we learn involves understanding other people's mental states, emotions, and social dynamics. Sleep, particularly REM sleep, appears specially important for processing social information. Recent studies found that sleep deprivation impairs the ability to recognize facial emotions and understand social cues. Even when memory for non-social information remains relatively intact, during REM sleep, brain regions involved in social cognition show enhanced activity, processing the day's social encounters and extracting patterns about relationships and interactions. This social memory consolidation helps you navigate the complex social world, remembering who is trustworthy, who tends to react emotionally, whose advice is usually sound. Sleep makes you socially intelligent, refining your models of the people in your life while you rest. Sleep's reconstructive nature sometimes creates false memories, vivid recollections of events that never happened. During consolidation, your brain integrates new experiences with existing knowledge, and sometimes this integration goes too far, blending different memories or filling gaps with plausible but inaccurate details. Recent research showed that sleep actually increases certain types of false memories, particularly those that fit well with existing knowledge schemas. This isn't a design flaw. It reflects the fact that your memory system prioritizes meaning and coherence over perfect accuracy. A memory that's slightly wrong but makes sense with everything else you know may be more useful than a perfectly accurate memory that seems disconnected and random. Sleep creates narratives from experience, and narratives sometimes require smoothing rough edges and filling gaps. Your memory is optimized for sense-making, not for being a perfect recording device. Children need more sleep than adults, and memory consolidation is part of why. Though sleep needs vary among individuals, a child's brain is rapidly forming new connections, learning language, motor skills, social rules, and countless facts about the world. This extensive learning process benefits from proportionally more sleep-dependent consolidation. Recent studies found that children who consistently get adequate sleep show better academic performance, not just because they're more alert in class, but because their brains can effectively consolidate what they learn. Sleep deprivation in childhood has been linked to long-term learning difficulties, possibly because critical periods of rapid learning coincide with periods when sleep architecture is still maturing. The sleep needs of children aren't optional. They're directly tied to brain development and the formation of memory systems that will serve them throughout life. Different types of memories have different lifespans, and sleep affects each type differently. Procedural memories, skills and habits, can last a lifetime once consolidated. Rarely forgotten, even after years without practice, semantic memories, general knowledge and facts are relatively stable once established. But episodic memories, specific events from your life, are surprisingly fragile, fading and transforming with time, even with adequate sleep. Recent research found that while sleep preserves the gist and emotional tone of episodic memories, specific details fade regardless. This may reflect an evolutionary priority. Knowing how to do things and understanding general principles matters more for survival than remembering exact details of individual episodes. Sleep preserves what evolution has determined is most important, allowing the rest to gracefully fade. The specifics of today will blur. But what you learned, how you grew, what you felt, those remain. Every time you recall a memory, it enters a temporarily labile state where it can be modified. This is called reconsolidation, and sleep plays a crucial role in restabilizing these reactivated memories. When you remember something during the day and then sleep, that memory is reconsolidated during the night, potentially incorporating new information or perspectives. Recent studies showed that people who retrieved old memories and then slept showed changes in those memories, reflecting their current knowledge and beliefs, while those who stayed awake showed less modification. This means your autobiography is constantly being revised during sleep, not by forgetting, but by updating old memories with current understanding. You're not just preserving the past through sleep, you're actively maintaining and updating it, keeping your memory of who you were aligned with who you're becoming. Let each breath guide you to realize time is yours, a separate stream that only you are living. While memories drift and swirl, this moment, this second you're breathing, listening, is unique. Notice the present, knowing that now, your experience is yours alone in the universe. Cherish this breath. And this one, as we drift further into memory's mysteries, and we continue. Riding a bicycle, typing on a keyboard, playing a musical instrument. These procedural memories form through practice and consolidate during sleep, but they operate independently of your conscious recall. You can perform these skills without consciously remembering learning them. Studies show procedural memories consolidate primarily during stage 2 and REM sleep, with performance often improving overnight without additional practice. A person with severe amnesia who can't form new episodic memories can still learn new motor skills and retain them across sleep periods. Your body remembers through sleep even when your mind cannot. This separation suggests that sleep consolidates multiple memory systems in parallel, each with its own rules and time courses. Sleep doesn't just preserve emotional memories. It can amplify the emotional associations while reducing the visceral stress response. After sleep, emotional memories often feel more vivid and significant, but less overwhelming. This appears to serve an adaptive function, keeping the emotional significance of experiences salient for future decision-making, while preventing those emotions from becoming debilitating. Recent research found that people's ability to learn from emotional experiences improves after sleep, suggesting that sleep refines emotional memories into useful guidance without the paralyzing intensity of the original emotion. Your sleeping brain is an emotional alchemist, transforming raw feeling into wisdom. Sleep helps build semantic networks, webs of related concepts, facts, and meanings. When you learn new information during the day, it exists in relative isolation. During sleep, particularly during REM periods, your brain connects this new information to existing knowledge networks, finding relationships and patterns. Recent studies using brain imaging found that after sleep, newly learned words activated broader networks of related concepts compared to before sleep. This network integration makes knowledge more accessible and useful. You can approach the same information from multiple angles, see connections to different domains, apply it in new contexts. Sleep weaves isolated facts into a tapestry of understanding. Your ability to navigate your environment depends on sleep-consolidated spatial memories. The hippocampus contains cognitive maps of physical spaces you've explored, and these maps are refined during sleep. Recent research on taxi drivers found that after learning new routes, their place cell representations were initially fragmentary and inefficient. After sleep, the representations became more organized and abstract, capturing the essential structure of the routes rather than every specific turn. Sleep transforms spatial experience into navigable mental maps. This applies not just to physical spaces but to conceptual ones. Your understanding of complex topics has a spatial quality, and sleep helps you learn to navigate those landscapes. Your life story is not a collection of isolated episodes. It's an integrated narrative, and sleep helps create that integration. Autobiographical memories consolidate during sleep, becoming woven into your ongoing sense of self. Studies show that sleep helps determine which experiences become defining moments in your life story versus which remain peripheral. The emotional significance, personal relevance, and narrative coherence of experiences all influence how they're processed during sleep. Sleep is essentially writing your autobiography, selecting which episodes deserve chapters, which become footnotes, and which fade into the background. You wake each morning with a slightly updated version of who you are. Much of what you learn happens without conscious awareness, and sleep consolidates this implicit learning, just as it does explicit learning. You pick up on statistical patterns in language, social norms, environmental regularities, all without consciously noticing you're learning. Sleep strengthens these implicit patterns, making them more influential in guiding your behavior. Recent research found that people's implicit learning of complex patterns improved significantly after sleep. Even though they couldn't consciously describe what they'd learned, your sleeping brain detects structures in experience that your waking mind never notices, building intuitions that feel like instinct but are actually learned. Your ability to perceive, to detect visual patterns, distinguish sounds, recognize faces, improves with sleep. Perceptual learning consolidation happens during sleep, refining your sensory systems to become more sensitive and discriminating. Musicians who practice recognizing pitch intervals show improvement after sleep. Radiologists learning to detect subtle abnormalities in medical images show better performance after sleep. This isn't just memory in the traditional sense. It's a recalibration of your perceptual systems themselves. Sleep changes not just what you know, but how you see, hear, and sense the world. Your perception is sculpted by what you sleep on. Once a fear memory forms, sleep can make it more resistant to extinction. The process by which fears are reduced through safe exposure. This presents challenges for treating anxiety disorders. Recent research found that fearful memories consolidated during sleep become more persistent, harder to override with new safety learning. However, this same quality helps preserve important warnings learned from dangerous experiences. Sleep stabilizes both adaptive and maladaptive fears, which is why addressing anxiety often requires techniques that work with sleep's consolidation processes rather than against them. Your sleeping brain doesn't distinguish between useful caution and debilitating anxiety. It strengthens emotional learning regardless, creating both protection and psychological burden. Sleep extracts abstract rules and concepts from specific examples. When you encounter multiple instances of a category during the day, sleep helps you form the general concept. Studies show people can identify the prototype of a category, the average or ideal example, better after sleep, even when they never actually saw that prototype. This conceptual abstraction is crucial for transfer learning, applying knowledge gained in one context to new situations. Sleep transforms your collection of specific experiences into generalizable knowledge, allowing you to recognize new instances of familiar patterns and apply learned principles to novel problems. The sleeping mind is a conceptual artist, sketching the essential form from varied models. Sleep doesn't preserve memories perfectly. It systematically distorts them in predictable ways. Memories tend to become more consistent with your expectations and beliefs after sleep. Details that don't fit your existing schemas tend to drop out, while schema-consistent details become more prominent. Recent research showed that people's memories of events became more stereotypical after sleep, more aligned with generic scripts and less specific to the actual idiosyncratic details of what happened. This isn't necessarily problematic. It makes memory more efficient and predictable, but it does mean that eyewitness testimony, personal recollections, and historical memory should be approached with humility about their accuracy, especially when time and sleep have had opportunity to reshape them. Sleep provides an incubation period for creative problem solving. When you work on a creative challenge and then sleep, your brain continues processing the problem in ways that differ from waking thought. Recent studies found that sleep leads to more creative solutions, more novel combinations of ideas, and more aha moments upon waking. This appears to involve the formation of remote associations, connections between distantly related concepts. During REM sleep, when the brain's associative networks are more flexible, sleep doesn't just consolidate what you already know. It discovers what you didn't know you knew, revealing hidden solutions in the recombination of existing knowledge. The creative insights that emerge aren't magic. They're systematic exploration of possibility space conducted by your sleeping mind. When learning complex skills, sleep helps decompose them into manageable components. A complicated sequence of actions gets broken down during sleep into distinct sub-skills that can be practiced and recombined. Research on people learning music or sports skills found that sleep helped them identify the critical elements of the skill, focusing practice more efficiently afterward. This decomposition also makes skills more transferable. The components learned in one context can be applied in related contexts. Sleep analyzes the structure of what you're learning, finding the building blocks that can be flexibly reassembled. This is partly why sleep improves not just retention but actual performance. Learning a new language requires extensive memory consolidation. New words, grammatical rules, phonetic patterns, Sleep is crucial for all these aspects of language learning. Recent studies found that vocabulary learned before sleep shows better retention than vocabulary learned in the morning, even when tested after the same amount of time awake. Grammar rules, which involve implicit pattern learning, particularly benefit from REM sleep consolidation. Children acquiring their first language sleep more than adults, partly because their brains need the consolidation time to process linguistic input. Sleep is when sounds become words, words become meanings, and meanings become thoughts you can think in a new language. Sleep affects not just what you remember, but your awareness of what you know, your metacognitive accuracy. After sleep, people become better calibrated in their confidence judgments, more accurately knowing which memories they can trust versus which are uncertain. This metacognitive refinement happens because sleep consolidation naturally strengthens some memories more than others, creating a real difference in memory strength that you can detect introspectively. Recent research showed that sleep-deprived people are overconfident in weak memories and underconfident in strong ones. Their metacognitive sense is miscalibrated. Sleep helps you know what you know, which is almost as important as knowing it. Most memories involve multiple senses: sights, sounds, smells, tactile sensations, and sleep helps bind these multisensory elements into coherent memory traces. During waking experience, different sensory aspects of an event are processed in separate brain regions. During sleep, particularly during slow-wave periods, these distributed representations are coordinated, creating integrated memories where seeing something can trigger associated sounds, or smells can evoke visual scenes. This multisensory integration is what makes memories feel rich and real. Studies show that sleep deprivation leads to fragmented memories, where sensory components remain isolated. Sleep weaves the separate threads of sensory experience into unified recollections. Memories aren't stored in isolation. They're embedded in rich contextual frameworks of where, when, and what else was happening. Sleep helps establish these contextual associations, linking memories to the circumstances of their acquisition. This is why walking into a room can remind you of what you were thinking the last time you were there, or why smelling a particular scent can transport you to a specific time and place. Recent research found that sleep enhances these contextual bindings more than simple stimulus-response associations. Your sleeping brain is a context weaver, ensuring that memories retain their connection to the circumstances that gave them meaning. Prospective memory, remembering to do something in the future, also benefits from sleep. When you form an intention to act at a particular time or when certain conditions arise, sleep helps solidify that intention. Studies show that sleep after forming prospective memories improves the likelihood you'll remember to execute them. Interestingly, this appears to involve consolidation of both the action plan and the contextual trigger that should prompt the action. Sleep helps you remember to remember, embedding future intentions in ways that increase their chances of being retrieved at the right moment. Your sleeping brain looks not just backward at what happened, but forward at what you intend to do. Schemas are organized frameworks of knowledge, mental models of how things typically work. Sleep plays a crucial role in forming and updating these schemas. When you encounter multiple examples of a category or situation type, sleep extracts the commonalities to form a general schema. Recent research found that newly formed schemas show signs of consolidation during slow-wave sleep. with brain regions involved in abstract knowledge becoming more active. Once formed, schemas influence how new information is processed and remembered. Information fitting existing schemas consolidates more easily than schema-inconsistent information. Sleep builds the mental scaffolding that structures all future learning. Sleep affects positive and negative memories differently. Research shows a complex pattern. Negative emotional memories often receive priority consolidation during REM sleep, ensuring you remember potential threats and dangers. But the emotional intensity of these negative memories decreases with sleep, while their informational content remains. Positive memories also consolidate during sleep, though through somewhat different mechanisms. Some studies suggest that REM sleep particularly processes negative emotions, while stage 2 sleep may preferentially consolidate positive ones. This differential processing may help maintain psychological balance, remembering what's dangerous while reducing its emotional burden, and preserving what's rewarding to guide future behavior. When similar memories interfere with each other during waking, sleep can sometimes resolve this interference by differentiating the memory traces. If you meet two people with similar names or learn two related concepts, the similarity creates confusion initially. Sleep appears to enhance the distinctive features of each memory, making them more discriminable. Recent research showed that initially confusable memories became more distinct after sleep, with brain regions representing each memory showing more differentiated patterns of activity. Sleep doesn't just store memories, it organizes them, ensuring that similar experiences don't become a confusing blur, but remain distinguishable entities in your mental library. The cultural knowledge that gets passed across generations depends on memory consolidation across countless sleep periods. A skill learned from a parent, a story told by a grandparent, traditional wisdom accumulated over centuries. All of this requires sleep to transform from transient experience into stable knowledge that can be retained and transmitted. Studies of cultural learning show that sleep consolidation is crucial for retaining cultural information across the lifespan. In this sense, sleep is not just an individual cognitive process, but a collective one, the mechanism by which cultures persist through time, each generation sleeping on the wisdom of the previous and waking to pass it forward. Your sleep participates in something larger than yourself. Learning what leads to positive outcomes requires sleep to solidify reward associations. Recent studies found that sleep enhances memory for reward-associated information more than neutral information. When you experience something rewarding and then sleep, the memory of that experience and the actions that led to it are preferentially consolidated. This creates behavioral tendencies. You're more likely to repeat actions that led to rewards in the past. This reward-based memory consolidation appears to involve dopamine systems during sleep, strengthening connections in reward circuits. Sleep helps you learn not just what happened, but what was worth making happen again. Your sense of self, your identity, is built from memories of your experiences, and sleep shapes which experiences define you. Memories that become incorporated into your life narrative receive different processing during sleep than peripheral memories. Research suggests that self-relevant memories show enhanced consolidation during both REM and slow-wave sleep. The person you wake up believing you are is partly determined by which memories your sleeping brain chose to preserve and emphasize versus which it allowed to fade. Sleep is identity work, continuously revising your autobiography and maintaining your sense of continuity across time. You are, in a real sense, what you sleep on. Without adequate sleep, memories can become fragmented. You might remember parts of an experience, but not others. Or remember facts without their emotional or contextual associations. Sleep-deprived people often show this pattern. They can recall isolated details, but struggle to reconstruct the coherent narrative of events. This fragmentation occurs because different aspects of memory consolidate during different sleep stages. Missing any stage can leave corresponding components of memory weakly consolidated. Recent studies found that people with chronic sleep disruption show consistently more fragmented autobiographical memories, experiencing their lives as disconnected episodes rather than integrated stories. Sleep provides the narrative thread that strings discrete moments into meaningful sequences. Wisdom. The ability to make good judgments based on experience requires more than just accumulating memories. It requires extracting patterns, recognizing when past lessons apply to new situations, and balancing multiple considerations. Sleep contributes to wisdom formation by facilitating the integration and abstraction processes that transform isolated memories into generalized understanding. Research suggests that the memory reorganization occurring during sleep helps identify deep structural similarities across superficially different experiences, which is crucial for wise judgment. The wise aren't just those who've experienced much. They're those who've slept on their experiences enough to distill their essence into applicable insight. Sleep is where experience becomes wisdom. You might be feeling tired now. That's perfectly fine. Breathe slowly. Feel the cycles. Thoughts arise. Thoughts fade. Memories form. Memories change. Like breathing. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. A rhythm of consciousness. You are part of that eternal movement. You don't need to hold on to anything. Let everything unfold. Like thoughts floating on a gentle stream. Unhurried. Unresisting. Simply being. We're almost there now. Each night of sleep gives you a chance to be reborn, with yesterday's experiences woven into who you are. You go to sleep as one version of yourself, shaped by the day's events, still carrying its emotions and questions. You wake as a slightly different person, one who has metabolized those experiences into memory, learning, and insight. Sleep is transformation. A daily metamorphosis so gradual you barely notice it, but over weeks, months, years, these nightly changes accumulate. The you that wakes is built from countless sleep cycles of consolidation, pruning, and integration. Sleep is not interruption of life. It's where life becomes permanent. Most of what you know, you learned from people you can no longer remember, teachers whose names have faded, friends from early childhood, books read and forgotten. These sources have been lost from explicit memory, but the knowledge they gave you persists, integrated across so many sleep cycles that its origins have dissolved. You are built from forgotten teachers, carrying forward their gifts even as their faces and names slip away. Sleep transformed their lessons into your understanding, separating what you learned from who taught you, keeping the wisdom while releasing the source. In this way, knowledge outlives memory. Your dreams are not random. They're experiments your brain conducts, testing scenarios that might never occur in waking life. During dreams, you might face situations you fear, Explore relationships that don't exist, or combine skills in impossible ways. These simulations may serve a memory function, allowing your brain to practice responses and explore possibilities beyond actual experience. Some researchers believe dreams are where your brain asks, "What if?" creating synthetic memories to supplement real ones. You wake with a richer understanding of possibility, having virtually experienced scenarios that waking life hasn't provided. Dreams expand the dataset your memory system learns from. Every memory you form is precious because you won't have infinite time to form them. Sleep reminds you of this. The daily cycle of waking and sleeping mirrors the larger cycle of living and dying. Each night, you practice a small death, surrendering consciousness and trusting you'll return. Each morning is a small resurrection, memories intact, ready to continue. Sleep teaches you impermanence and continuity simultaneously. The memories you preserve through sleep are how you persist across time's passage, how experiences that happened once continue to exist through countless cycles of consciousness lost and regained. The sleep you experience tonight is fundamentally the same process that organized memories in your ancestors thousands of generations ago. The neural mechanisms are ancient, conserved across evolutionary time. When you sleep, you're participating in something that connects you to every human who has ever lived, every mind that has ever needed to consolidate experience into memory. This is humbling and beautiful. Your private, subjective experience of sleeping and remembering is also a universal human experience, binding you to the collective human story across time. Sleep makes you both unique and universal. Memory is always about the past, but sleep shapes how you experience the present. The memories consolidated during sleep become the lens through which you interpret current experience. When you encounter something new, your brain instantly compares it to consolidated memories to understand it. Your experience of now is inseparable from your memory of then, all organized by sleep. Without memory, there is no context, no meaning, no self-experiencing the moment. Sleep ensures that each present moment is informed by the past, creating continuity of experience across the gaps of unconsciousness. Not everything should be remembered, and sleep's selective consolidation is a grace. Imagine if you remembered every moment of physical pain, every embarrassment, every mundane detail of every unremarkable day. The ability to forget is as important as the ability to remember, and sleep orchestrates both. By morning, the sharp edges of difficult memories have softened, unnecessary details have faded, and what remains is what your brain has deemed worth keeping. Sleep is kind, preserving what serves you and gently releasing what doesn't. Forgetting isn't failure, it's curation. Though your dreams are private, the process of dreaming connects you to everyone sleeping simultaneously across the world. Now, millions of people are in REM sleep, their brains replaying memories and processing emotions. You're participating in a collective nightly ritual of memory consolidation. Each person in their own subjective world, yet all engaged in the same fundamental process. This simultaneous privacy and universality is part of being human. Separate consciousnesses, all following the same biological necessity. Alone together in the darkness. Memory is humanity's only form of time travel. Through sleep-consolidated memories, you can revisit moments long past, experiencing them again with the vividness that consolidation preserved. You can't change what happened, but you can re-experience it, finding new meanings and perspectives each time you recall it. Sleep maintains these portals to the past, keeping them accessible across years and decades. In a very real sense, sleep-preserved memories make you a time traveler, able to dwell simultaneously in multiple periods of your life. The childhood memories you still carry were consolidated during sleep cycles decades ago. That child version of you, sleeping peacefully in their small bed, began the process of preserving experiences that you, the adult, now remember. Your current self is built on the memory work that child's sleeping brain performed. In this way, you carry forward the choices your younger self's sleeping brain made about what to preserve. Those consolidation decisions continue to influence who you are. Your childhood self speaks to you through sleep-preserved memories. Memories of people you love persist through sleep's consolidation. The sound of their laughter, the comfort of their presence, specific moments of connection. Sleep has preserved these, making them resistant to time's erosion. When someone you love is far away or gone, these sleep-consolidated memories allow you to keep them close. Your sleeping brain treats emotionally significant memories with special care, ensuring that what matters to your heart receives priority in the consolidation queue. Love lives in memory, and memory lives in sleep. Your mind is a museum of experiences, and sleep is the curator who decides what goes on display, what goes into storage, and what gets deaccessioned entirely. Each night, this curation continues, moving some memories to more prominent positions, allowing others to recede into storage, occasionally rediscovering old memories and giving them new context. You wake each morning to a slightly reorganized museum, the same collection but with new arrangements, new emphasis. This ongoing curation is how you maintain a coherent sense of self despite constantly changing. Every experience you're having now will, if deemed important, be consolidated during tonight's sleep. The words you're reading, the thoughts you're thinking, the feelings you're feeling, all potential candidates for memory. Sleep hasn't happened yet, but it's already shaping your current experience through anticipation. You know that sleep will select what's memorable from today's flood of experience. And this knowledge subtly influences what you attend to and value. Your future sleep is already participating in your present experience. What you pay attention to during the day influences what gets consolidated during the night. Attention tags experiences as potentially important, increasing their likelihood of sleep-dependent consolidation. In this way, you exercise some control over your memories. Not complete control, but influence. By directing your attention mindfully during waking hours, you're essentially communicating with your sleeping brain about what matters. The legacy of your attention choices persists through sleep consolidation, shaping who you become. Between each thought, between each memory, there is silence. Sleep brings you closer to this silence, quieting the constant chatter of consciousness. In the deeper stages of sleep, thought itself may cease, yet the brain continues its memory work. This suggests that memory consolidation doesn't require consciousness. It happens in the silence beneath awareness. The quiet spaces are not empty. They're full of invisible activity, organizing and preserving the experiences that consciousness will later retrieve. Silence is where memory solidifies. You are a pattern-recognizing system, and sleep refines your ability to see patterns. Each night, consolidation processes extract regularities from the day's noise, finding signal in chaos. Over time, through countless sleep cycles, you become increasingly skilled at recognizing patterns that matter. Emotional patterns in relationships, causal patterns in events, aesthetic patterns in art. Sleep trains your pattern recognition systems, making you more perceptive, more intuitive. The patterns you notice feel spontaneous, but they emerge from patient overnight training. You cannot force memory consolidation. It happens on its own schedule during sleep that you cannot fully control. This enforced passivity is humbling. You must trust your brain to do its work while you surrender consciousness. There's wisdom in this mandatory trust, this daily practice of letting go. Sleep teaches you that not everything requires your active effort, that some of life's most important processes happen when you stop trying and simply allow. Memory formation, like sleep itself, requires surrender. If you pause before sleep to recall the day's moments worth remembering, you may be influencing what gets consolidated. Gratitude practices before bed might tag positive experiences for preferential consolidation. While research on this is still emerging, the principle makes sense. Attention and emotional significance both enhance consolidation. By consciously appreciating experiences before sleep, you're potentially communicating with your sleeping brain about what deserves preservation. Gratitude becomes a conversation with your future self. Despite sleeping and waking, despite memories forming and fading, you experience yourself as continuous. The same person who went to sleep is the one who wakes. Sleep paradoxically creates both continuity and change. Continuity, because consolidated memories preserve your sense of identity across the gap of unconsciousness. Change, because each night's consolidation subtly alters who you are. You are simultaneously stable and evolving, held together by sleep-maintained memory while being transformed by sleep-mediated learning. The self persists through constant renewal. Despite decades of research, much about sleep and memory remains mysterious. Why exactly does consciousness need to be suspended for optimal consolidation? Why do we dream? What determines which memories last a lifetime versus which fade after weeks? Science has revealed extraordinary complexity, sleep-dependent memory. But fundamental questions persist. This remaining mystery is appropriate. The most intimate aspect of your existence, the process by which experience becomes permanent, retains its wonder. Some questions may never be fully answered, and perhaps that's as it should be. Every culture throughout history has recognized sleep's importance, even without understanding the neuroscience. The ubiquity of sleep across human societies, the reverence given to dreams in many traditions, the instinctive knowledge that rest is necessary, all point to deep wisdom about sleep's role. Modern science confirms what humans have always known. Sleep is essential, sacred, transformative. Your need for sleep tonight connects you to this ancient human understanding. This universal recognition that consciousness must periodically surrender to restore itself. What you wake up knowing tomorrow morning will include some things you didn't consciously know tonight. Sleep's consolidation processes will reveal patterns, solidify learning, integrate information in ways that feel like insight or intuition. Morning clarity is real. It emerges from overnight memory work. The gift of morning is not just rest, but transformation. The quiet miracle of waking wiser than you slept. This happens so regularly, you may take it for granted. But it's extraordinary. Your brain works while you rest, preparing gifts for your waking self. Sleep compassionately reduces the emotional sting of difficult memories while preserving their lessons. This is mercy built into biology. You remember that you were hurt, but over many sleep cycles, the memory hurts less. You retain the wisdom gained from hardship while the suffering itself fades. This is not erasure but healing. Transformation of pain into scar tissue. Still part of you but no longer raw. Sleep is gentle with your difficult memories, gradually metabolizing them into something you can carry without being crushed. Your brain is inviting you to rest now. The drowsiness you might feel is not weakness. It's your consolidation systems preparing for their nightly work. The heaviness in your eyes, the slowing of your thoughts, the gentle pull toward unconsciousness. These are your brain preparing to process today's experiences. Accepting this invitation is not giving up on the day. It's allowing the day to become permanent, to be woven into who you are. Sleep is not the end of doing. It's where doing becomes being. Tomorrow night, you'll sleep again, continuing this eternal cycle. Waking to experience, sleeping to consolidate, becoming through consolidation. Each cycle carries forward what previous sleep preserved, building on foundations laid by countless prior nights. Your life is this accumulated process. Experience, sleep, memory, change, endlessly renewing. You are the sum of your sleep-consolidated experiences, evolving through each cycle toward the person only sleep can create. Tonight, the process continues, gentle and inevitable as breathing. And so, our quiet journey through memory's hidden chambers comes to a gentle close. We've traveled from the moment you first close your eyes, when today's experiences await their nightly transformation, to the morning when consolidated memories return as part of who you are. From neurons firing in precise patterns deep in sleep, to the wisdom that emerges when experience becomes permanent. We've glimpsed how memory is both recording and creation, how sleep both preserves and changes, how forgetting serves remembering. Memory and sleep remind us that we are not static beings, but continuous processes of change. Much of who we become happens in darkness, in silence, without conscious effort. The consolidation that occurs each night demonstrates resilience. Your brain working to preserve what matters, integrate what you've learned, prepare you for tomorrow. Without sleep, experience would wash over you like water over stone, leaving no trace. With sleep, every meaningful moment can become part of your permanent architecture. By pausing to rest, you allow transformation. By trusting the process, you participate in your own becoming. In these final minutes, take the deepest breath you can, as deep as possible. Think about consciousness itself. Yours, mine, everyone listening, all awareness everywhere. Perhaps all connected in ways we don't yet understand. You are not alone in the universe of minds. Let your entire being dissolve into the ocean of consciousness, into dreamless rest, into the space before thought, where memory forms in silence, where you return each night, safe, dissolved, complete. Prepare for deep sleep. No boundaries left, only peace. If this thoughtful exploration of memory and sleep helped you understand your own mind a little better, or simply helped you relax tonight, a gentle like and subscribe might help another restless soul discover this peaceful space too. It only takes a moment, but it means the world to us. One quiet tap, one sleepy soul at a time. But there's no need to do anything now. Nothing at all. You've traveled far tonight. Exploring the hidden architecture of memory, you can allow these thoughts of neurons and consolidation to fade now, like words dissolving into quiet darkness, leaving only the peaceful calm behind. Let your breathing deepen. Let your body feel heavier, as if you're sinking gently into the earth itself, held safely by gravity's ancient embrace. If sleep comes, let it carry you like a slow tide, smoothly, inevitably, into a realm where time and thought no longer matter. If your eyes are still open, the next video is waiting for you, ready to continue the journey. But if they're closed, stay there. Stay in the darkness that feels safe and warm. Tomorrow, your memories will still be there. The consolidation will still happen. Your sleeping brain will still preserve what matters. But tonight belongs to stillness. Rest well, sleepy scientist, and remember, you are more than your memories. Yet your memories make you who you are. Fall asleep to gentle science, where memory meets sleep. Dream deeper with bedtime psychology. Good night.